continue along here post Christmas with Indiana prep. Like I've said before, excited about this matchup, this bowl game, Tampa. First time in 5 years being in a bowl game for our program, so I'm sure a lot of fans are excited as well. But really excited for our players that they get to go to a bowl game, even though it's abnormal and not like it used to be. We just basically go one day early, but challenge is to play really well and win the game. And it's everyone come back here and go in that indoor and see that banner up there. What do you want that banner to say? When you bring your kids here someday. So this will be challenging. They're very good. There's a reason they're 6-1 and only lost to Ohio State by one score. Very challenging on defense, schematically, and play really hard, create a lot of turnovers. And we're, really, struggling via injuries, opt-outs, COVID, especially offense. So we're kind of running out of players here, but which is not ideal when you're a tempo offense, but is what it is.
Eric, start us off.
Hey, Lane, you touched on this a little bit. What are your COVID numbers after coming back from Christmas, and are you in jeopardy of not playing the game?
We've not talked about not playing. I think, we just want to play, so to be part of a bowl game after this long of one, and so we've not even discussed that. So I don't even know what our numbers are because we're just going. And I actually think some teams did that this season, even in our conference, that we're under, and just decided to go play anyway. So it's challenging, like I said, and for whatever reason, early in the year, our issues were on defense, with injuries and COVID, and now they're on offense. And obviously, we in last game with, our two most productive players in the pass game opted out, didn't play in the game. And probably the next best or next explosive receiver from a, yards per catch standpoint goes out of the game, and starting tailback goes out of the game. So that's a lot to handle.
How is Indiana different without Penix at quarterback?
I just think, changed a little bit. He was such a good athlete. That, they still run the ball really well with a bunch of backs and really good offensive line. So, and we've had challenges obviously all year on defense, regardless of it's a freshman quarterback, new quarterback, whatever. So, we've had a big challenge to play really well on defense, special teams, and help us out with our offensive issues.
Go to David.
Yeah, Lane, two-part question. Just can you tell us where you're at in terms of searching for a new defensive line coach, and who will assume those responsibilities in the bowl game?
Marquise is doing that. Who worked under Deke all year long. So he'll do that for the bowl game. We will start that after the bowl game. We just want to focus on this game, and then there'll be plenty of time to work on that because there's really no recruiting. I feel like 95% of kids are signed for the most part. So, recruiting used to be something why you would speed up hires, but that's not really important, and we're almost out of spots anyway.
Okay, looking at Indiana, do they resemble anyone that you played in the regular season? If so, who?
No, I think defensively, I feel like playing a lot of Ole Miss when we were at Alabama. With some of the scheme, especially in the coverage area. So, like those good defenses played really hard, undersized at some positions, but, forced a lot of turnovers and negative plays. That's what these guys do.
Thank you.
Go to John.
Lane, you kind of mentioned them defensively there. Are they, you think, the best defense you've seen this season, the Hoosiers?
I don't know that. They are as productive as any defense. From a turnover standpoint and a yardage standpoint, I think the defenses in our conference kind of got screwed up statistically, a lot of them, because, all SEC games, and there's a lot of really good offenses this year in the SEC. So, I mean, you've seen a lot of, if you look at statistics in the SEC, they're not, it used to be, look at the top 10, there'd be 4 teams or something like that from the SEC. I think that's out of whack because of all SEC games and so many good offenses.
And quick follow-up, what do you kind of see from a guy like Freifogel on the tape? What makes him kind of so dangerous?
Well, I just think that, just makes plays and, got to, something to deal with. So we played against a lot of great players this year. And, this is just, I feel like we're just playing another SEC game.
Go to Nick.
Lane, you brought up last week a couple of the opt-out decisions. Is it still just Kenny and Elijah, or have any other guys came to you and said that they won't be playing?
We actually have a few guys up in the air. Some that have taken some time off here at Christmas that we start back tomorrow. We're going to have an answer where they're at. So, I mean, I don't know. This is just where we are. We're recruiting our own players to play in a bowl game that they've never played in. So, it is what it is.
I know you didn't get too much evaluation time between LSU and the holiday, but have any of these young receivers or tight ends kind of stood out as guys that you might be able to showcase in this bowl game?
I think tight end will be by committee. And receivers, there's not really many numbers left, an opt out during the season. Obviously Elijah, some injuries during practice. So we don't have many guys there. I think we only have like 6 scholarship receivers left.
Leo, go ahead. Go ahead, Leo. You're muted if you're trying to talk.
Coach, normally you'd be at the bowl game enjoying everything and, getting 3 or 4 days and it would be a reward. How hard is it to convince your players now, showing up the day before, like almost like business as usual, that this is a reward?
Well, we were able to push back coming back till the next day. So I think that they're excited about that, because we get there Thursday night. You want to go out New Year's Eve, 2 nights for the game, with COVID issues and stuff. And so, they're going to be trapped in the hotel. So at least we were able to give them, Saturday we're going to stay down there. So they'll have a chance to get out a little bit after the game.
Go to Kevin.
Yeah, Coach. Tom Allen, I guess, worked with your brother. I don't know if you've picked your brother's brain at all about that and your thoughts on just overall some of the family ties and what he's been able to accomplish at Indiana.
I haven't. Chris was just busy losing to the Jets, so I didn't want to bother him. We do, have a lot of background in the scheme, just from going against it, and some of it kind of comes from a Tampa background, for my dad and stuff. So, and my dad here, I think, made it easier not to have to call Chris.
And just a quick follow-up, I'm talking to Jason Jones when he was mentioning you at FAU. He talked a lot about the discipline and the organization of your practices, and he mentioned that you working with Coach Saban really influenced you in that regard. I'm just curious about that and just how you reflect on your career and the number of places you've been, how it's impacted your ability to, be at this point and the experiences that you've gained from a number of different coaches.
Well, I think Coach David helped tremendous, going there 3 years with him and learning completely different system. I've said it before, Pete Carroll and Nick Saban, 2 Hall of Fame coaches that are completely opposite in how they do things. So I just think not many people, maybe me and Sark, maybe the only people ever that's worked with both. And that, so, when you get to do your own thing, you combine both and take some from each. And I think that's what Jason's talking about with the practice planning and the structure and the different fields and all the different stuff going on. Comes from time being there. And Jason, on the side note, has done a great job. I texted him the other day. I think that I want to say we led the country in interceptions a year ago with him at FAU coaching DBs, and now they're doing it there. So obviously he does a great job.
Go back to Nick.
Lane, do you have any favorite family memories of that stadium in Tampa?
That's a good question. I mean, I remember the old Sunboro more when I was younger going there. And I want to say that maybe the first playoff win I was at there, I did not won in the playoffs forever. And was at the game when they finally won in the playoffs with Coach Dungy. So, and then then just lately going back there and the Glaziers and everybody for my dad's 80th, and then surprising with him of going into the Ring of Honor, which was supposed to happen this year before COVID. I know it's such a big deal to him, to have his name up there with Coach Dungy, Coach Gruden, Sapp, Derek, all those, John Lynch, all the great players and coaches.
Parrish, go ahead.
Lane, I had to step away for a minute. I heard you mention tight end by committee. You've talked about wide receivers. What are your running backs like? Do you expect to get anything out of Jerry On? Can you tell us a little bit about him?
Yeah, we hope so. Obviously, he hasn't done anything yet, but we still got a long time to go. So hopefully he can. If not, you're going to see a lot of young guys, and we're cross training TK right now too. So it's kind of the year we're in.
Well, Lane, on a side note with the Bucks, I will tell you that I attended their first win in history, their first NFL win in '77. I was there.
Wow, you just kind of aged yourself.
There are lots of ways that I age myself, but it was a very, very disappointing day for a Saints fan.
Was that Coach McKay?
Yes.
Was that like year 4? Didn't they lose like 3 straight years where they ever won or something?
That was the 13th game of their second year.
Wow. I'm sure at that point he was wanting to go back to USC probably. I think he said before he had better players at USC.
Yeah.